In the heart of a quiet African village named Manga, where the sunrise painted golden rays across dusty roads and children chased goats through wild fields, there lived a man known as Baba Nayoka. To outsiders, he was a gift to the village, a wealthy herbalist with a silver beard, sun-darkened skin, and a smile that stretched wide enough to comfort even the weariest traveler. He dressed in flowing robes of indigo and gold, often walking barefoot to show his humility. He was known to greet the elders with deep bows and hand out warm yam bread to barefoot children. To the villagers, Baba Nayoka was not just respected, he was adored. People called him Baba Wayuzima, the father of life, for his knowledge of ancient herbs, healing prayers, and his generosity to the poor. Every market day, he set up a small table by the roadside where he distributed free tonics to mothers with sick children and food packages to the hungry. From the earth we were made, and to the earth we shall return. Let the earth feed you, he would say with a grin, offering a basket of cassava and dried fish. But what the villagers did not know, what no one dared even whisper aloud, was that Baba Nayoka's generosity came at a terrible price. The dark forest secrets. Outside the village, past the tall acacia trees and the winding river where women washed clothes and gossiped, lay Baba Nayoka's private compound, hidden deep within the forest. It was a place no one was allowed to visit. He claimed it was his sacred space, where he communed with ancestors and prepared rare medicines. The villagers never questioned it. After all, every sick child he treated got better, and every barren woman who drank his tea later carried a baby in her arms. But inside that compound, something unholy brewed. Baba Nayoka was not just a herbalist. He was a butcher, a trafficker of human flesh. Young women who came to him for jobs, love, or medicine often vanished without a trace. Some were orphans. Others were travelers from neighboring towns. He targeted the desperate, the lost, and the curious. His traps were laid with gentle words, sweet gifts, and promises of a better life. He'd say, "Come, child. Let me show you how to make healing roots. You'll have work, a place to sleep, and warm food." And when they arrived, smiling and hopeful, he would offer them tea laced with sleepwood, a paralyzing herb known only to ancient herbalists. Within minutes, the girls would drift into a heavy slumber. They never woke up again. Flesh for gold. Baba Nayoka was connected to a dark underground trade, secret buyers who paid heavily for human body parts. Flesh disguised as wild meat, organs sold to mysterious doctors, bones carved into amulets worn by the wealthy. To hide his crimes, he cremated what he couldn't sell and buried the ashes beneath his compound garden, where the soil always seemed unusually fertile. Despite the whispers of girls who vanished, no one ever dared accuse Baba Nayoka. He was too respected, too powerful, and too kind, at least on the surface. When a merchant's daughter disappeared, Baba Nayoka joined the search party. When a visiting student went missing, he helped organize a candlelight prayer vigil. He wept with the mothers and promised to speak to the spirits. No one ever suspected the tears he shed were crocodile tears, and that the girls they prayed for were buried beneath his herbs. The village whispers. Yet, some villagers did whisper. Quietly. He is too generous. No man gives that much without wanting something back, said Mzi Omori, the oldest man in the village. But he healed your wife, didn't he? Someone replied. Yes, but my goats went missing the same week. And my granddaughter refuses to go near him. She says his shadow doesn't move when he walks. Others dismiss these fears as superstition. But a few sharp minds in the village began to grow uneasy. Girls from outside villages had stopped visiting, even when job offers were announced. Letters sent to their homes were never answered. Something was wrong. They could feel it in the wind, in the heavy way the birds stopped singing when Baba Nayoka walked by. Still, fear was stronger than suspicion. And Baba Nayoka knew it. The new girl in the village. Then, one morning, a girl named Amora arrived in Monga. She was tall and graceful, with skin the color of polished ebony and eyes like firewood embers, bright, but guarded. She carried a small woven bag, a faded Bible, and wore a necklace made of cowrie shells. She had no parents, no family, and no money. But she had something even more powerful, a sharp mind and a fearless heart. Amora had come from a neighboring village after a devastating fire destroyed her home and everything she owned. She was looking for a new start, and Monga seemed quiet and welcoming. The villagers, moved by her story, offered her a room in the old school building and small jobs to help her survive. Baba Nayoka noticed her the moment she walked into the market. He was drawn to her, not just because she was young and new, but because there was something unusual about her spirit, something he hadn't seen in the other girls. She didn't look at him with awe. She didn't smile when he gave her food. She nodded respectfully, but her eyes never left his. She is bold, he whispered to himself. Too bold. But boldness can be broken. That evening, he sent one of his messengers, a young boy named Keto, with a message. Tell her I would like to offer her work at my compound. A cleaner's job. Nothing difficult. She can earn good money and have her own room. Keto delivered the message, smiling. He helps everyone, he said. You'll be safe there. But Amora said nothing. She simply took the note, folded it carefully, and placed it under her pillow. The first step of the trap. The next day, Baba Nayoka met Amora at the well, carrying a jar of water on her head. He greeted her with a kind smile. My child, you are strong, he said. But you shouldn't carry such heavy loads. Let me help. Amora shook her head. Thank you, Baba, but I'm used to it. Where are your parents? He asked softly. Gone, she replied. You deserve better. A girl like you shouldn't suffer. Come to my compound. I'll pay you well, feed you. You will be safe. I treat my workers like family. Amora looked at him with polite suspicion. I'll think about it, she said. That night, Baba Nayoka sat in his compound, stirring a thick brew in a black clay pot, his eyes glowing like coals in the firelight. She will come, he muttered. They always come. And when she does, I will make her scream louder than the rest. His grin stretched wide, a twisted version of the smile he wore in the village. The sun had barely risen when Amora began her usual morning routine, sweeping the steps outside the old schoolhouse, fetching water from the village well, and preparing a small breakfast with the little food she had earned the day before. Her fingers were blistered, her sandals worn thin, and her belly growled often, but her spirit remained unbroken. She was only 19, but her eyes carried the weight of someone twice her age. Behind her quiet grace lay a story of loss and strength, one that made her different from the others. Her parents had died in a fire that consumed their entire home in the village of Itanda, just 2 weeks before her final school exams. With no surviving relatives and no money, Amora had left everything behind and walked for days, sleeping beneath trees, eating fruit from strangers, until she reached Monga. She had heard it was a place of peace, where kind people offered shelter to those in need. And for a while, it seemed true. Baba Nayoka's second visit. That morning, as she rinsed her hands near the well, Baba Nayoka appeared once again, robes flowing in the breeze, walking stick tapping softly against the stones. Amora, he said warmly. You rise before the birds. Hard work looks good on you. Amora bowed her head slightly, her eyes watchful. It's the only thing I've known, Baba. Baba Nayoka chuckled. You remind me of my granddaughter, may the ancestors guide her spirit. She too was strong and wise. His words were honeyed, smooth, but Amora felt something off in his gaze. It wasn't just kindness, it was hunger, masked behind gold teeth and generous hands. I still have space at my compound, he said. A simple job. Cleaning, helping in the gardens. You'll sleep in a real bed. You'll eat well. You deserve more than this. Amara hesitated. She needed the money. She needed safety. But something in her chest whispered wait. Still, curiosity grew in her like a small fire. How did one man, without a farm or family, become so rich? How did his herbs cure what even doctors could not? She looked up and nodded once. I will come. But only for a few days. Baba Nayoka smiled. You will not regret this, child. You are now under my protection. The compound. That evening, Baba Nayoka sent his driver, a quiet man with a scar over one eye, to pick her up in a black pickup truck. The road twisted through the forest, deeper than she had ever gone, the trees growing taller, the air colder. When they reached the compound, Amora stepped out and blinked. The building was massive, made of red clay and stone, surrounded by towering fences and thick vines. It was both beautiful and terrifying. She was led into the main house, where a young housemaid brought her water, food, and a change of clothes. Your room is down the hall, the maid said, avoiding her eyes. Amora thanked her, but something tightened in her stomach. As she walked past the garden, she noticed a fire pit with the faint smell of burnt cloth. When she passed the storage hut, she saw locks thicker than those on a prison gate. That night, as she lay on her bed, the compound seemed to breathe with its own life. The trees whispered. Owls hooted. And then, she heard it, a faint scream, followed by muffled crying. She sat up, heart pounding. The walls around her felt colder now. The warning signs. The next day, Baba Nayoka gave her work cleaning shelves filled with strange herbs, powders, and jars filled with things she didn't recognize. You're learning fast, he said, watching her too closely. She smiled politely, but she kept her thoughts to herself. Each day brought more questions. Why did no one ever come to visit the compound? Why did the maids never speak unless spoken to? And why, in the evenings, did she always hear shuffling noises outside her window? On her third day, as she swept the back corridor, she noticed something glinting beneath a loose tire. She bent down and uncovered a small gold earring, broken and dusty. The initials LK were etched into the back. Later that night, she passed the fire pit again, and saw a pile of half-burned women's clothing beneath the ash. She couldn't pretend anymore. Something was very wrong. The forbidden door. On the fifth night, Amora waited until the lights went out. With her slippers tight, she tiptoed past the sleeping quarters and followed the faint smell of something metallic, like blood and rust. Behind the herb room was a heavy wooden door, marked with strange chalk symbols. It was locked tight, but as she ran her fingers along the frame, she found a small crack in the wall just wide enough to peer through. Her breath caught. Inside was a dark staircase, leading down into the earth. And at the bottom, in the flicker of torchlight, she saw a row of cages. In them were young women, some crying, some barely moving. Chains rattled as they shifted. One girl looked up, and her swollen face locked eyes with Amora. Before she could think, a voice whispered behind her. You shouldn't be here. The betrayal. She turned to find Baba Nayoka, standing in the shadows, holding a clay jug in his hand. His warm eyes were gone, replaced by something cold and monstrous. I told you, child, he said softly. You would be safe. But your curiosity has made you dangerous. Amora stepped back, heart racing. What are you doing to those girls? He smiled. They are no different than animals. Some are sold, some are sacrificed. You wouldn't understand. But you're special. You could have had a better fate. She turned to run, but he was faster. A cloth soaked in sleep wood was pressed against her nose. The last thing she saw was the golden moon above the compound wall, fading into darkness. The chamber below. Amora awoke on a cold stone floor. Her arms were tied, her feet bare, and the air was thick with the stench of blood and rot. Around her, girls lay in rows, silent, pale, trembling. Some had cuts. Others had hollow stares, like their souls had left long ago. A girl beside her, no older than 16, leaned in and whispered, "Welcome to the cellar. He says we are medicine for the rich. But we are just meat." Amora clenched her fist, heart pounding. She knew she was not like the others. She would not become anyone's offering. She would fight. She would survive. She would find a way out. The coldness struck first. Amora's eyes fluttered open, adjusting slowly to the dim light of flickering torches embedded in mold-covered stone walls. A sharp pain throbbed in her wrists and ankles. She was chained, both arms raised above her, her feet barely touching the floor. Her clothes were torn, and her mouth tasted like smoke and metal. A soft moan echoed beside her. Then another. And another. As her vision sharpened, Amora gasped. She was not alone. Dozens of girls surrounded her, some shackled, others curled in corners like broken dolls. The air was thick with fear, blood, and decay. Rats scurried past cracked buckets. The floor was slick with old stains. A girl on her left was trembling uncontrollably, whispering to herself, "Not me, not me, not me." Amora's stomach turned. This wasn't a room. It was a slaughterhouse. The chamber of death. A voice spoke softly near her. "You're awake." Amora turned her head and saw a girl seated against the wall, her legs swollen and bandaged with dirty cloth. She looked older, maybe in her 20s, but her skin was pale, and her eyes were tired like someone who had lived through too many storms. "I'm Zalika," the girl said, wincing as she moved. "He brought you last night." Amora nodded slowly. I remember him. Baba Naoka." Zalika gave a bitter chuckle. "He's no Baba. He's the devil with a kind face." Amora swallowed hard. "What is this place?" Zalika took a deep breath. "This is where dreams come to die. The truth in the shadows." Zalika leaned closer. "He brings us here with promises, jobs, homes, love. Some came thinking they were going to be his wife. Others came looking for healing. Then, he puts us to sleep. When we wake up, it's already too late." She pointed to a sealed wooden door at the far end of the chamber. "That's where he takes the girls. One by one. They don't come back." Another girl whispered hoarsely, "He sells us, our parts. Our blood. Our bones." Amora felt her throat tighten. "How many?" Zalika closed her eyes. "There were 32 when I came. I've seen more than 20 go through that door. And no one comes to help? No one even knows this place exists. We are beneath his house. He built it himself. The only way out is through that door, or up there." She tilted her head toward the wooden ceiling, where faint cracks led through threads of light. Amora stared at the ceiling. It looked old, warped by moisture. "Perhaps, just perhaps." A voice of hope. Later that night, while others wept or slept in terror, Amora whispered to each girl, gently urging them to stay strong. "We are still breathing," she told them. "Which means we still have a chance." Some didn't respond. Others shook their heads. But a few looked up at her with glimmers of life in their eyes. "I saw the ceiling," Amora said to Zalika. "It's weak. Maybe if we can break it." Zalika coughed. "You think there's hope?" "There has to be," Amora replied. "If not for us, then for the girls he hasn't taken yet." Her words floated through the chamber like sparks in darkness. Small. Fragile. But real. For the first time, a few of the girls whispered together, quiet planning, faint courage forming like cracks in the ice. The weak spot. The next morning, Amara began testing the ceiling during the short moments when Baba Naoka was away. Using the tip of a broken bone and pieces of sharp metal found in the chamber, she chipped at the weakest beam, a panel of old wood softened by termites. It was slow. Dangerous. But every splinter that fell was a step toward freedom. Be careful, Zalika warned her. If he sees you. I know. They worked in shifts, 2 girls keeping watch while one chipped away, always careful to cover the sound with whispered prayers or the soft shuffle of chains. Amora's hands bled. Her arms ached. But she didn't stop. The monster returns. On the 5th day, the torchlight in the chamber flickered, a sign he was coming. All the girls froze. The heavy wooden door creaked open. Baba Naoka stepped inside, dressed in crimson robes, holding a curved blade in one hand and a ceramic bowl in the other. His face was calm. Too calm. His eyes scanned the room. And then they stopped on Zalika. You, he said. Zalika tried to sit up. Please. He didn't respond. 2 guards entered behind him, men with cold eyes and cloth masks over their mouths. They unshackled Zalika and dragged her forward. Amora screamed, no. Take me instead. But Baba Naoka only laughed. Such noble spirit. But not yet. I have other plans for you. He turned to Zalika. You've lasted longer than most. I'm impressed. Perhaps your heart will sell for more. Zalika looked back at Amora with a trembling smile. Don't stop digging. Don't stop believing. And then she was gone, through the cursed door. The chamber fell silent again. But something had changed. Now the girls were ready. Now, they had a leader. Amora didn't sleep that night. Zalika's final glance haunted her, the strength in her smile, the quiet message in her eyes. The room felt emptier now, though the bodies remained. What once was a pit of hopelessness now stirred with quiet rebellion. Something had changed. Amora sat silently beneath the weak panel in the wooden ceiling, her fingers walking behind her back, slowly sharpening the edge of a rusted nail she had hidden beneath her skirt. A girl beside her whispered, You still want to try? Yes, Amora said firmly, and this time, we all try. Together. Small tools, big hope. In the days that followed, Amora became the center of a silent storm. She began collecting anything she could, shards of glass, broken bones, chipped stone, rusted metal plates from the feeding buckets. She fashioned tools, hiding them in loose stones and beneath torn bedding. Some girls still doubted her. Others were too sick to move. But the younger ones, the ones who still dreamed of home, followed her lead. Amora organized shifts. At night, 2 girls stood watch near the wooden stairway where Baba Naoka sometimes descended. 2 more would dig silently, taking turns as their hands blistered and bled. The wood above them creaked now with every push. They were close. The power of her mother's voice. In the silence, Amora often drifted into memory. Her mother's voice echoed in her heart. When something feels wrong, Amora, listen to your spirit. It is wiser than fear. And when you have nothing else left, you still have your courage. She remembered the fire. The thick smoke. Her mother's hand pushing her through the window just before the roof collapsed. Run, Amora, she had cried. Amora ran that night. But now, she wouldn't. Not unless she took them all with her. The devil's return. On the 3rd day, the chamber filled with tension. Torchlight flared. The locks clanked. The heavy wooden door creaked open again, and Baba Nayoka stepped in, this time holding the hands of two new girls, no older than 15. Their eyes were wide with confusion and fear. "These ones are fresh," he said aloud. "From the North Village. You may welcome them, if you think you'll live long enough to talk." He glared at the room. "Anyone who misbehaves, anyone who tries anything, will watch these two die first." He pointed at Amora, his voice like ice. "That includes you." Amora didn't blink. She held his gaze. "You're afraid?" Baba Nayoka chuckled. "Afraid? Of you?" "Yes," Amora said calmly. "Because I still have something you lost a long time ago." He frowned. "And what's that?" "Hope." He stared at her for a long time, then turned and left. But Amora's words stayed behind. And the girls heard them. The final push. That night, the girls worked with more urgency. The weak ceiling panel now splintered at the edges. Beneath it, a hollow gap had formed, filled with loose dirt and stone. "We are close," whispered Nia, a sharp-minded girl with braids falling into her eyes. "I can smell fresh air." Amora nodded. "We'll go one at a time. No screaming. No running. Quiet. Quick. We help each other." They dug faster now, hands bleeding, knuckles raw. Each girl worked for 10 minutes at a time before switching out. By sunrise, a gap had opened wide enough for a body to squeeze through. Amora pulled herself up and peeked through the hole. It was the outer kitchen. Abandoned for the night. But she wasn't alone. A large, dark dog lay curled by the stone stove, its ears twitching, eyes glowing faintly in the half-light. It was a guard dog, one of Baba Nayoka's trained beasts, known to rip intruders apart on command. Amora's stomach dropped. "We are so close," she whispered. But he knew. He planned this. "We are the fire." Amora dropped back down and huddled the girls. "We found a way out," she said. "But it's not safe. There's a dog guarding the kitchen." The room fell silent again. "Then it's over," someone whispered. "We can't fight a dog." "No," Amora said, rising to her feet. "It's not over. We didn't come this far just to stop now." She looked around, fire in her voice. "Zalika didn't die for us to sit here and wait. We either go now, or we wait for our turn to be dragged through that door." The youngest girl, Mary, spoke up. "What if we distract the dog?" Amora nodded slowly. "Yes. But it must be smart. Loud enough to pull it away, quiet enough not to alert the guards." They began planning. They broke a clay pot and scattered the shards near the storage shelves, hoping the noise would draw the dog away. Mary volunteered to make the sound from a safer corner. One by one, they took their places. This was it. No turning back. The girls sat in tense silence as Amora reached into a wooden bowl of rotting food scraps, leftovers the guards had tossed into their chamber just hours ago. A few dry bones. Moldy bread. Crushed cassava. She wrapped it all in a torn cloth and carefully climbed up through the tunnel they'd dug for days. Her heart pounded like thunder in her chest. She could still hear the faint growling above. The dog had moved slightly closer to the tunnel opening. "Please, let this work," she whispered to herself. She climbed the last bit and slowly reached out a hand, tossing the bundled food toward the far side of the kitchen, away from the tunnel mouth. The dog sniffed. Then growled. Then slowly, cautiously, padded toward the smell. As it tore open the cloth and began licking the scraps, Amora motioned down through the hole. "Now," she whispered. "Quickly. The escape begins." One by one, the girls emerged. Nia. Miri. Solma. Didi. Others followed. Some crawled. Some cried silently. Their eyes burned with desperation and hope. Amora helped pull them through, whispering encouragement to each one. Keep low. Stay behind the barrels. Don't make noise. There were 15 girls in total. Each second felt like an hour. And then, a car door slammed. Then another. Then a voice. Baba Nayoka's voice. He said he wanted 2 hearts and fresh skin. And I told him I had the perfect ones this week. Amara froze. He had come back. The unexpected return. From behind the cracked kitchen door, Amara peeked out. 3 luxury black cars had parked outside the compound. Men in long coats stepped out, briefcases in hand. One carried a silver cooler. Baba Nayoka greeted them with his usual charm. Come, come. The delivery is almost ready. I have a girl, strong like cattle. Her skin shines like rain-polished stone. The men laughed. Amora turned to the girls. You have to go. Now. But what about you? Nia asked. I'll hold him off. Just get to the forest. Follow the river until you reach the village. Miri grabbed her hand. We are not leaving you. You must, Amara whispered, her voice firm. If you stay, none of us make it. Now go. She kissed Mary's forehead and turned back toward the door. A dangerous distraction. Amora stepped into the courtyard as Baba Nayoka walked toward the house. His eyes widened at the sight of her, clothes torn, hair wild, face smeared with dust. You, he said, stepping back. How did you? I came to speak with you, Amora said, her voice calm but trembling. I've been thinking. Maybe I was wrong about you. He stared, confused. I want in, she continued. I don't want to die. I want to be part of it, your business. You need someone smart. Baba Nayoka narrowed his eyes. Why would I trust you? You don't have to. But you're running out of time. You lost Talika. If you lose the others. What others? He snapped, stepping forward. She bit her tongue. His eyes darkened. You're lying. I'm not. Suddenly, he lunged forward and grabbed her by the throat, lifting her off the ground. You little witch, he growled. I should have killed you the day you walked into this place. Her vision blurred. She scratched at his arms, gasping for breath. And then, a horn blew in the distance. Voices. Shouting. The village strikes back. Drop her. It was the village guards, dozens of them, storming into the compound, spears raised, torches lit. Baba Nayoka turned in shock. One of the girls, Soma, the fastest among them, had run ahead to the village and told the chief everything. The elders had gathered the men and followed her straight into the heart of darkness. Arrest him, shouted Chief Ajoni. Search every room. Baba Nayoka dropped Amora and tried to run. But Amora, gasping, dizzy, furious, grabbed the rusted knife she had hidden in her waistband and flung herself at him. She drove it into his leg, just as he reached the car. He screamed and crumpled to the ground. Blood soaked his robe. Guards rushed forward, pinning him down. Amora collapsed beside the well, chest heaving, watching as the man who had haunted so many lives was finally captured. The night faded into grey silence as the morning sun rose over Monga. The village square, usually quiet at dawn, was filled with people. Women in headscarves, elders in long robes, children clutching their mothers' hands. They had come not to celebrate, but to witness justice. In the center of it all stood Baba Nayoka, shackled and bleeding, slumped against a wooden post. The guards had stripped him of his crimson robes and gold rings. Now, he looked smaller, older, powerless. But still, his eyes burned with defiance. He had not spoken since his arrest. And when he did, it was only to curse. The truth unearthed. As the sun climbed higher, guards began dragging large sacks into the village square. Some were filled with bones. Others held burned jewelry, scorched clothing, and personal items, remnants of the many girls who had vanished. One by one, the villagers came forward. Mothers screamed as they recognized a pendant. Fathers dropped to their knees upon seeing a familiar sandal. Amora stood beside Chief Ajoni and the council of elders, her body bruised but her back straight. The digging revealed dozens of graves, said one elder, voice cracking. Some shallow. Some hidden beneath his herb garden. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Amora stepped forward. Her voice was quiet but steady. He promised them safety. He offered them love, food, jobs. Then he drugged them, chained them, killed them, and sold their flesh. The crowd grew tense. Mamas turned into shouts. Baba Nayoka looked up and laughed bitterly. You people are fools, he spat. You fed from my hands. You praised me. You called me Baba. I gave you more than your gods ever did. A stone flew from the crowd, striking him in the chest. The elders raised their hands. Silence returned. The trial of shadows. The elders met in a sacred circle, draped in red and black cloth, symbols of judgment and mourning. One by one, survivors like Nia, Miri, and Didi testified. I was 14 when he promised to heal my mother's sickness, said Nia. But he took me instead. Miri clutched her necklace. He told me I was beautiful. That he wanted to marry me. But I woke up in a cage. Others spoke through tears, their words painting the same story: lies, betrayal, captivity, horror. Still, Baba Nayoka remained unmoved. I only did what the world pays for, he muttered. I am not the first. I won't be the last. The final word came from Amora. She stood before him, eyes steady. You used your smile to hide your evil. But we saw through it. And now the world sees too. Sentence of the elders. Elder Nyasha, the oldest and wisest, stood slowly, her walking staff tapping the earth with power. For crimes against our daughters, for trafficking in blood, for feeding on trust and twisting our peace into darkness. She turned to Baba Nayoka. You are hereby sentenced to public judgment and banishment from the land of the living. The crowd erupted into chants. Let justice fall. Let peace return. Let his name be forgotten. That evening, as the sun bled orange over the hills, Baba Nayoka was executed in the very square he once walked like a king. No one sang. No one danced. Only silence remained. And then, healing began. The hero they needed. The next day, Amora stood outside the burned remains of Baba Nayoka's compound. Villagers had torn it down with their bare hands, brick by brick, until nothing but ash and dust remained. At the center of the ruins, she planted a small fig tree, its roots wrapped in cloth from Zalika's dress. For every girl who never came home, she whispered. For every voice that was silenced. Behind her, the village watched in quiet reverence. The tree stood firm. A symbol of life. Of hope. Of truth. A shelter for the forgotten. Months passed. With help from the chief and village women, Amora transformed the old schoolhouse into the House of Daughters, a shelter for orphan girls, survivors, and anyone in need of safety. She traveled to other villages, speaking out against human trafficking, teaching girls how to spot danger and how to stand tall. Her name spread across the land. Not as a victim, but as a voice. A warrior. A light in the dark. The final words. On the anniversary of her escape, Amora stood beneath the fig tree. It had grown taller now, its branches reaching toward the sky. Beneath it, stones were placed, each marked with the name of a girl lost, remembered. A young girl from the shelter approached her and asked, "Why do people like him smile so much?" Amora knelt down and answered gently, "Because evil hides behind smiles. But truth always finds its voice." The wind blew softly through the leaves, and the fig tree stood tall in the place where darkness once lived. The end.